Hi everyone, welcome. I'm out in my yard and this is my outdoor worm bag. It's actually two grow bags nested within each other, and they've got a pretty good amount of protection going all the way around. It's a little bit deceiving on how deep it is because the bag should really be sticking out a bunch, making it a much deeper system. So being so close to the rim is a little bit deceiving. It's been a couple weeks since they were last fed, and what I've got for them today is a nice assortment of, well, pretty far gone avocados. So whatever was salvageable ended up in a salad. Whatever was not salvageable, unfortunately, 5 whole avocados are going to the worms. And over the 2 weeks since we last checked in here, there was one occasion when I came in yesterday. Just felt like I wanted to give the system some water because we've been going through a little bit of a heat spell here, and I was a little bit sympathetic to the worms being out here in the heat, and I wanted to try to alleviate that a little bit, or at least make sure they had enough moisture. I figured in the heat maybe there's a lot of evaporation going on or something, so I didn't really investigate or assess. I just came in and moistened. So that's why a lot of this crabgrass that we threw in here last time as the bedding is still pretty damp. And the other spot where we applied a bunch of this crabgrass was right down the middle into a little pit that we had dug for ourselves. And the feeding they got last time, 2 weeks ago, was something I wouldn't expect to see any leftovers of. It was the rinds of some watermelon. So down here is where that would have been applied. So I think that's why we're seeing a few worms huddled together down here where that feeding had been. What I remember last time though, when we came in here to feed, was that we scooped out the middle, and we had tons and tons of worms in the material. Here I'm just getting the sense that somehow we don't have quite as big of a presence right down the middle, at least. Hopefully we have just as much of a worm presence in here as we had previously. Maybe my hope is that they just went elsewhere in the bin, so I'm kind of probing around now, just trying to get a sense of the general population. Maybe I'm just a little bit paranoid because I had a major die out in one of my systems recently, and I don't know if I might have let things in there dry out too much too quickly. And just by moving my hands through this stuff, it feels like it's got a good moisture content, but I wonder if that could only be because I came in here with a generous amount of water yesterday and doused it. Maybe I should have investigated to see what things were like in here prior to adding some water, but whatever. It is what it is. And I am seeing good numbers of worms in the material. It's just weird, this big wad on top of the system, all this crabgrass we threw in as bedding last time. It's taking up a lot of space. It seems like if it's going to be bedding, it might as well get blended in. So here and there I'm just sort of mixing it with whatever I'm excavating. It's got a good moisture content because that's what I sprayed the water onto yesterday. Pretty much doused to the top, which was covered in all of this crabgrass, gradually deteriorating, breaking down. It's still here in a great amount. And there are worms getting into it, but it may have only just started becoming something that the worms can take advantage of. I was curious about whether or not it might have heated up and became sort of a hot composting environment, in which case, if it had, I hope that the worms were able to get away from it and work their way out to a portion of the system that was not heating up. It's the reason I put the majority of this stuff down into the center. Alright, so moisture wise, I am very curious now. I wish I had some way of knowing how damp things were in here before I applied moisture. But as I blend in a lot of this fairly damp crabgrass with the surrounding material, I feel like it's bringing with it a good bit of moisture. Some of the material, some of the bedding is a little bit dry here and there, especially on the outer edges. I guess over here we're down to like the last outer edge we haven't really examined yet. But you can see as I bring it in, it's not bad. I guess let's just take a piece of it from over here where it was undisturbed. Yeah, I guess the moisture level's not bad, so hopefully they weren't doing too bad in here. What is this? There was like a big mound of what appeared to be worm activity. Maybe it was just a pile of crabgrass. Not sure. Sometimes worms will huddle together into a single spot when they're feeling distressed, trying to take shelter from whatever's bothering them, huddling together for safety. And when you see it, it's kind of cool because there's so many worms there, but it's also kind of not cool because you know that something's really bugging the worms, causing them to do that. So I'm glad that that wasn't that. So yeah, you know, I'm just wondering if adding a little more moisture would be necessary. I don't think so, you know, because we always have that wooden lid, so to speak, that top cover, keeping moisture from evaporating straight out the top surface. And even around the edges, you know, I'm pretty sure there's moisture making its way out of the bin by just going through the bag and getting out the sides and stuff, but I would assume that it's pretty well protected from that happening. So I think with the moisture that we have in here now, we're okay. This here to me looks like some shells of avocado, similar to what they're going to get now, and that's all they're going to get, I think, because I don't think we need to add more bedding, because the bedding we gave them last time was a significant amount, and there's a lot of it remaining in here. And I know you can never go wrong with putting in too much, what seems to be too much bedding, or there's no such thing as too much bedding in a worm bin. I know. Today I just thought we'd skip and try to just get the most out of what bedding we placed in here last time. I think just by breaking bits of it up, we're going to be almost simulating the addition of some bedding in here, because so much of it that was just unavailable for worm exploitation is now broken up out of the clump that it had been in and is now much more approachable and usable, I think. And that's kind of what I'm after here, is just trying to bust up these big clumps of material that's already, you could tell it's starting to break down. But if you have a bunch of greens in your compost, and I guess all this crabgrass counts as mainly a green, it will break down into almost like a slime. And if you don't have some sort of brownish type materials for it to combine with in the deterioration process, you won't really like the product, I think. So when you got a lot of greens like we've got here, and yeah, I know bedding is supposed to be browns, I think, right? Perhaps these are just a bunch of greens that would turn to browns if there was enough time given. Making excuses, I don't know, whatever. I think there's a lot more work to be done in here, and future check-ins on trying to help break this stuff apart and help assist it in the breakdown process, but it seems like we could just spend all day doing it. Hopefully what we've done here now is going to aid it in further breakdown, and if there's little bits of clumpiness remaining, we'll tackle it next time. For now, I just want to create a little pit down the center. We'll drop in those avocados they're getting today, and we're going to finish with that. So let's see here. Each of these, this is I guess one of these seeds would belong with this one, and then this seed, I don't know where that one came from. Maybe that was just the seed from one of the salvaged ones that were good enough to eat. Some of these, I don't think any of these are really busted open. They're all solid, and none of them were frozen. Usually freezing stuff is part of my food prep for worm bins, These were not frozen, so I don't know if that's going to hinder their breakdown or help their breakdown. But one thing that I think is going to help is at least piercing the outer shell of these things so that worms can gain access to what's inside, start working the stuff down instead of prolonging that and just, you know, forcing nature to take its course in terms of penetrating the shell. So I'm just curious. Look at all that mold in there. All right, one more. Let's just pop a hole into this one too, and that's going to be their feeding. Seems like a pretty decent feeding. And I guess the other thing I omitted today, which I sometimes bring a care package of up from downstairs, is some grit. I sometimes bring some pulverized eggshell to include as the grit in the feeding. But what we've got here is a whole bunch of I guess it's not very visible now, but what all this was a bunch of uprooted crabgrass, weeds. So there was a lot of dirt that went in here along with the roots. So I treated that as like a major injection of grit with all that sand and dirt and stuff, all that natural earth going in here as a supplement to even what they got, which was a care package. I did bring a care package of crushed pulverized eggshell down here last time and put it in, and then I proceeded to use all of this bedding too. So I think as far as grit goes, this system is in great shape. So always interesting seeing how things in here are doing. And once again, an interesting sort of one-sided feeding here. Last time too, it was just watermelon. Today it's just avocado. Sometimes they get assortments of different things, but what I had on hand was what they're getting, and that's typically what's on the menu for my wormies. But as far as our check-in, I think we're done here. I've got a few more things I've got to take care of here as far as putting stuff away and getting things cleaned up, but I'm not going to waste your time with that. That's boring. Before I go though, let me really quickly say thank you. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, as always, please don't forget to leave me a quick thumbs up before you go. And if you haven't done so already, please also consider subscribing to the channel. Alright everyone, have a great day. Thanks for watching. Bye now.